A lot of people see anger and aggression as something that should be pushed down and avoided. It is often demonized quite significantly. But what happens when we do that is it just breeds more, and it breeds resentment until that person feels like they're going to spontaneously combust or has some sort of outburst, or maybe they get a physical illness as a result, because that energy has to go somewhere. And I find that anger and aggression are protective experiences. It's the fuel that helps us to say no to something that we don't agree with. It's the fuel to help us protect ourselves when we feel threatened. And sometimes anger and aggression is justified in the situation. So a person who's never had their voice heard, who feels like they are constantly abused, they're going to be angry and they're going to be aggressive sometimes. And some would say, well, it's not appropriate. There's never an appropriate time for that. Well, it's got to be felt somewhere. And it's a human response to a very difficult experience or experiences. And so if we don't make time for anger, anger's going to make time for you in some way, shape or form. And so I think we need to give anger the time and space that it deserves. And perhaps give it a little bit more respect for how it is serving us, and stop looking at it as something that takes away. So have a think about, where have you been angry and what purpose has it served? Where did it come from? And in what other ways could you make space for it to allow yourself to experience it and then express it in a more healthy way? So there are healthy and unhealthy ways of expressing anger sometimes, depending on the situation. And healthy ways to express it could be by learning how to become assertive and asserting what your needs are, learning to say no to somebody and having healthy boundaries so that you don't become resentful and angry to the point of having an outburst with somebody who is taking the mick out of you and your kind nature. Or it could be that something has happened that feels unfair and unjust, and you need to process that. And something that I tell people is, you might want to rip paper. You might, which gets a lot of eye rolls, you might want to get like a stress ball and squeeze it or throw it at a wall in a safe environment, a wall that doesn't have things around it. You could get Play-Doh and like really feel it and squeeze into it and give all your aggression to it. You might use that same Play-Doh to throw that at the wall. Again, hopefully not around things that you can damage or, have things that are going to fall on you as well. It might be that you get some Play-Doh and a toy hammer, and you let out all of your aggression by hammering that Play-Doh as hard as you can, as many times as you need to, and really, like the whack-a-mole game. You might want to go to the arcade and play whack-a-mole. You might want to go to the gym and do some really heavy weights, or go for a sprinting run. There's lots of ways that you can use anger to fuel things and to express it and use the energy in a healthy, safe sort of way. But also sometimes anger gets so big that we can't, and it just comes out whatever way it's going to come out. Because I suppressed my anger just before I had my breakdown, that's a massive factor in why I had the breakdown, because I was holding all of this stuff energetically in my body, in a felt sense that I was just pushing and pushing and pushing. Things that I wasn't saying that needed to be said, things that I wasn't expressing. I'd silenced myself a lot at university and allowed myself to be treated in certain ways. And in the past, and I was angry about that. I was angry about how I allowed people to use and abuse me in relationships. And I was angry at myself for that as well, for the choices I made, And I was angry for the things that were actually unjust even though I'd chosen wisely. And so it was like a bomb had gone off in my mind and my body. And it was so almost tangibly electric that when I would touch things, things would break. Even if I consciously tried to set a glass down gently on the table, it would still smash down, because consciously I was trying to be gentle, but there was so much energy in me through the anger that it was uncontrollable. And this is partly what I mean about if you push anger down and away for too long and too deeply, it's going to build up like you know, like a pressure cooker until the top of it blows off. Like, you know, like that kettle on the stove, once it starts screaming because of the pressure of the steam and the heat in that, and then the screaming is happening and it's like almost uncontrollable until you take it off the heat. You know, there's different ways of looking at anger, but I think we need to start making space for it ultimately. So I hope you found this video interesting and informative in some way, and maybe even validating, or gives you some ideas of how you can start to incorporate anger or look at anger a little bit differently. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.